Hi everyone, it's me, Angel here, and I did promise you a story. So since I'm Swedish, I thought I should start this series with a Swedish story called Pomperipossa. And I have translated this from Swedish myself. So if there's anything wrong or anything you don't understand or something like that, just let me know in the comments, okay? So here we go. Pomperipossa with the Long Nose by Axel Wallengren in 1895. So it's written very long time ago. Very well. Here we go. Once upon a time, there was a terribly old witch named Pomperipossa. It's not exactly a pretty name, but still much prettier than she was. Can you imagine what she looked like? She had 2 tiny red eyes and a huge mouth with only 3 teeth in it. Her hands were full of warts and a big hump on her back. But the worst was her nose, 'cause it was 2 feet long. Imagine how much snuff she would have to take when she took snuff. A whole pound each time. But Pomperipossa could afford it, 'cause she was extremely rich, and she lived alone in a small cottage in the forest. The cottage was built out of sausages and ham. And instead of bricks, there was large pieces of butterscotch. That's how rich Pomperipossa was. But not a single person dared to approach her, and barely any ogre either, 'cause she was terribly mean. If anyone came to her, she immediately turned them into a table or a pot or a stylus or anything else. She was a very dangerous witch. Her biggest grief was that every time she charmed anyone, her nose grew longer and longer, and that was her punishment. In the country where Pomperipossa lived, there was a king, and he had a little prince named Pippi and a little princess named Fifi. And one beautiful day, they took a stroll in the park, escorted by the Lord Steward, who was so refined that he could only answer with "ah" or "ha" to anything they said to him. Anyone said to him. "I want to go to the forest," said Prince Pippi. "Ah," said Lord Stewart, and accompanied them. After a while, they came to a swamp, and the Lord Steward got his feet wet, since he wore shoes made from silk. "Ha!" he said, and turned back to get a pair of high boots. But before he left, he put his finger on his nose and said, "Bah." And that was supposed to mean, "Wait here, Prince Pippi and Princess Fifi, until I get back with my high boots." But the royal children did not understand him, so they continued into the forest. That happened to be the exact same forest in which Pomperipossa lived, and all the birds started to tweet, "Oh, don't go there, don't go there." But Prince Pippi did not understand birdsong, and he said to his sister, "How about we go out on an adventure? It's so boring at home. I happen to have 6 pence. How much do you have, Princess Fifi? Oh, I have only a single penny, answers Fifi. But I can roast apples. Oh, then you can almost cook. You get to be my maid, Prince Fifi said. And so they ventured out into the dark forest until they got to Pomperipossa's little cottage, built from sausages, ham, and butterscotch. Let's have some supper, Prince Fifi said, who felt hungry and broke a large sausage from the house. Then Pomperipossa stuck her long nose out of the window and looked at them. Oh, come on in, she said. I am your kind godmother. And I'm going to give you some sweet pancake with jam. Prince Fifi and little Fifi believed her and entered the house, even though they were very afraid. Said Pomperipossa and looked at them. I haven't had goose steak in a very long time. And so she cast a spell, and shortly Prince Fifi and Princess Fifi turned into two small geese, who stared at each other in horror. Lord Stewart! Prince Fifi wanted to yell in panic, but all he heard was "Caw, caw, 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 caw." He no longer could talk, only gobble. Ouch! Yelled Pomperipossa and grabbed her nose. It had grown another 2 feet the instant she turned Fifi and Fifi into geese. So right! All the birds in the forest yelled. Oh, just you wait! Pomperipossa screamed and showed her fist at them. I'll send my cat to get you. Oh, we're going to get help, the birds sang and flew away to ask the stork to get there and give them some advice. The stork is the wisest of all birds, for he travels to Egypt, and every winter to study the hieroglyphs on the pyramids. Now you're going to swim, my little geese, said Pomperipossa, and drove Fifi and Fifi in front of her with a large stick. It'll do you good, and you'll taste better when I cook you tonight. And so she drove them down to the lake. Caw-caw-caw-caw-caw, they moaned. But they still had to get into the cold water. Are you saying caw-caw-caw? She asked. Maybe you mean pancake with jam, she mocked them. The enchanted geese must eat small black tadpoles and wet grass. That was something other than pancake with jam. Pomperipossa stood there on the beach and supported herself on the long nose that was now as long as her legs. Just then she heard a rustle behind her in the bushy forest, and she turned around. It was the Lord Stewart, who had been home to get his high boots and then worriedly been searching for the royal children. Ha! He said when he saw the witch. Pa! He said, and drew his long sword to cut her nose off. But Pomperipossa turned him into an old crow who anxiously jumped around on the beach saying, "Gra, gra!" I'll croak and gobble all you want, Pomperipossa laughed, really pleased with herself. Nothing can set you free from your enchantments unless you get to hear the worst scream in the whole world. Only then will all I've ever enchanted get their true forms again, and I'll turn into stone. But that, we hope, won't happen yet for a couple of million years, said Pomperipossa, and took 2 pounds of snuff up her nose. That would serve you right, yelled all the birds, who had just returned with the wise stork. Oh, you mock me so my nose gets hot, hissed Pomperipossa, and stuck her nose into the lake to cool it down. But see, she never should have done that, for down in the lake there lived a huge crayfish who hadn't eaten in 3 days. And the crayfish gripped Pomperipossa's long nose with his claws. And Pomperipossa screamed so horribly that her face turned blue. But the crayfish did not let go. Then the witch screamed even louder, so it could be heard far down in Africa. That was the worst scream in the world, said the stork, and he spoke the truth, 'cause no birds can lie. Oh, and snap! Immediately, the spell over Pippi and Fifi was broken, and the little geese turned into prince and princess again, and the crow that jumped around on the beach became the Lord Steward again, with decorations and wig and sword and high boots. Va? Ah, bra, Lord Steward said, and took Prince Pippi and Princess Fifi by their hands, and then he ran with them as fast as he could, through the forest and back to the castle, where the king waited for them, with the scepter in his left hand and the globus cruciger in his right, and he was very angry since they had been gone for such a long time. "No," said the steward calmly. The king understood immediately what the Lord Steward meant, that they had been under Pomperipossa's spell, and that they couldn't help it. The king was moved and rewarded the Lord Steward with the highest order in the kingdom, and gave Princess Pippi and Princess Fifi half each of the big globus cruciger. But Pomperipossa, she immediately turned into stone, and you can still see her if you go to the lake, although she now is so overgrown with moss and brushes that she looks like a small mountain. But once a year, on the anniversary of her first turning to stone, she turns back to her old self, and then the crayfish clams her nose again, and she screams again so horribly that it echoes through the mountains. But what day that is, well, of that only I know, and I won't say anything. So it doesn't serve you any good that you even try to go out there to look, 'cause then your nose will grow as long as Pomperipossa's, and you wouldn't want that now, would you? That was it. Now, do not forget to tune in next week for another story. Good night.